What was Jaqen Hagar doing in the black cells in King's Landing, and then with the caravan of Night's Watch recruits heading north? Had he been hired to kill someone? And if so, who, and by whom? Hi everyone, this is Robert. Welcome to Deep Geek. On this channel we cover all of George R.R. Martin's Legendarium, A Song of Ice and Fire, House of the Dragon, Game of Thrones and more, as well as The Lord of the Rings and The Witcher. If that sounds good, there's a subscribe button in the bottom right of your screen. This is the third in a series of videos about what the Faceless Men are up to in A Song of Ice and Fire. This video will build on what we looked at in the last two videos, so if you want to go back and watch them first, then come back here, feel free. But this also works as a standalone video. The question today is what on earth Jaqen Hagar was up to when we first meet him. We find out later that he is a faceless man, but off-page he had been languishing in the black cells under the Red Keep for some of Book 1, then we see him in a cage for the first half of Book 2, all in disguise. Why? First of all, why was he in the black cells? These are the third level of dungeon under the Red Keep and reserved for the most vile, dangerous or important prisoners. This is where Ned Stark was imprisoned, and later Tyrion, and where Qyburn does his dark experiments on the mountain and others. This isn't just a place to throw common criminals. You need to have done something serious, or someone important needs to have put you there. Jaqen seems to have been there for a little while, but not very long, because neither he nor Rogue and Biter, the other two he was imprisoned with, seemed to be displaying obvious signs of malnutrition or sickness that we might expect from someone who has been in a pitch-black cell for weeks or months without sunlight, proper nourishment, or, to be frank, any sanitation in their cell. So why was he there? Well, I think it's unlikely that he was caught trying to assassinate someone, say. Not just because it seems unlikely for a man of his talents to be caught, but because surely we would have heard if there had been a foiled assassination attempt on one of the Red Keep's denizens in the week or two before Ned's execution. There is absolutely no mention of this whatsoever in the books or the show. So why is he there? If he wasn't captured, then he must have chosen to be there, and either snuck in there using one of the secret passages that we know exist, or had someone with influence put him there. Put simply, Jaqen must have been in the black cells because he wanted to be there. Presumably somebody hired him to assassinate someone, and this was his way in. We know that the Faceless Men play the long game with their assassinations. They are paid for a precision strike, often made to look like an accident, and can spend days or weeks even studying their target and deciding on a plan of attack before striking. We see this with Arya in training in Braavos. She studies her target, the insurance broker, for days before finally devising a way to kill him without anyone knowing he had been assassinated. I think we can safely discount Rogue or Biter as Jaqen's target, because for most, the black cells were as good as a death sentence already. Neither of them seemed to be the type that you would pay a fortune to get a stealthy assassin to kill, and frankly, Jaqen had plenty of chances to kill them if he wanted to, and he didn't, so not them. The only other person we know of in the black cells at that time was Ned Stark, so him? Let's hold that thought, because the other option is that Jaqen wasn't specifically wanting to be in the black cells, he just thought that was the best way to get into Yoren's caravan of Night's Watch recruits heading north without attracting suspicion, as indeed happened. Now, this obviously wasn't the only way he could be a part of that caravan, but it may well have been the best way to do so without anyone thinking that he wanted to be there. If he had volunteered to join the Night's Watch, he would actually have appeared quite suspicious. No one volunteers to join the Night's Watch these days, at least no one in the south. And a little bit of research would have told him that this was where Yoren would likely go to get recruits. It's where he went the last time, after all, and if everyone believed that Jaqen was only a part of that caravan of recruits because he had been dragged out of the black cells, no one would suspect him of being there on purpose. It would be the perfect cover. All of which brings us to the question of why would he want to join that caravan at all? Well, we know it wasn't to join the Night's Watch or to get to the Wall, because he never goes further north than Harrenhal, even when he is set free from the cage. So it has to be something to do with who was in the caravan. And of course it turns out that that caravan was not just going to be filled with the usual collection of misfits and criminals. We know that Varys arranged for Gendry, the dead king's bastard son, to be taken north with it to spare him from the massacre of Robert's other bastard children. And Arya was a last-minute addition as well, when Euron found her in King's Landing. But the reason the caravan had not already departed and was standing there ready to go at the time of Ned's execution was that the plan was for Ned himself to be a part of that caravan. Varys had brokered a deal with Cersei that Ned would confess to the crimes that he didn't commit, then Joffrey would pardon him on condition he took the black. Yoren's caravan was told to wait for this very reason. So we have three incredibly important characters all potentially in the same caravan heading north, and a highly trained assassin who appears to have organised to travel undercover in that same caravan. This seems to be beyond coincidence. However, I think we can easily rule out two of those potential targets straight away. Jaqen doesn't ever try to kill Gendry, or apparently take much of an interest in him in the books or in the show. He could have killed him many times, and he didn't, so no, Gendry wasn't the target. Jaqen does take an interest in Arya, of course, but the timing here simply doesn't work. When Yoren caught Arya and co-opted her into the Night's Watch caravan, Jaqen was already counted and in the group heading north, ready to go. Neither he nor anyone else could have known that Yoren would happen to spot Arya in the crowd and decide to take her with him. Which, once more, leaves Ned. He was the only realistic target in the Black Cells, and now he is the only realistic target in the Night's Watch caravan. Or at least he should have been. We know now that Ned was never going to be on that caravan because Joffrey had him beheaded, but at the time, nobody knew that, except perhaps Joffrey himself. As far as everyone was concerned, the plan was for him to take the black and head north. Might someone who knew about this plan have contracted the Faceless Men to kill Ned en route to the Wall? It may sound like an odd assassination to order, but it really wasn't. In the Game of Thrones, you win or you die. By that point in the book, we'd already had the assassinations of Jon Arryn and Robert Baratheon, a couple of attempts to kill Bran, one on Daenerys. Why not Ned as well? It's not as if he didn't have enemies, and a faceless man could have made it look like an accident or framed someone. As for who might be behind the attempt, we really just need to find someone who meets 4 criteria. First, they need to have known about the plan for Ned to be on that caravan, so they will need to have been in the inner circle in the Red Keep or have a good spy network, or both. Second, they would need to be rich to afford whatever fee the Faceless Men charged, because although Ned's status was greatly reduced and arranging an accidental death on a hazardous journey wouldn't be too hard, he was still an incredibly prominent figure, and the fee would likely have been high. Third, they will need to have been planning this for a while or have contacts in Braavos, because Braavos is a 1,500-mile round trip and the price would have to be agreed by negotiation in advance. And finally, this person would have to really, really want Ned dead. Not just exiled to the Wall or away from King's Landing, but absolutely and definitely dead. You are probably ahead of me on this, but I think there is only one person who meets all of these criteria. Littlefinger. He knew about the plan to send Ned Stark to the Wall. He is clearly rich, and as Master of Coin, it is clear that he's the only one who has a clear understanding of the Crown's finances. He might even have been able to divert Crown assets to support his own agenda. He was also definitely planning on setting the Starks against the Lannisters for a long time. He encouraged Ned to investigate Robert Baratheon's bastards and tried his best to keep him in King's Landing for as long as possible. He lied about the Catspaw's dagger that was used to attack Bran in order to frame the Lannisters. He betrayed Ned and saw him thrown into the Black Cells. He knew the Night's Watch were in town and would likely be invited to take prisoners from the Black Cells, and he knew Ned was due to be pardoned and go to the Wall. If anyone had the time to organise a hit by the Faceless Men, it was Littlefinger. And of course, he did want Ned dead really badly. Not only was Ned married to Cat, the subject of his ongoing, unrequited and rather seedy obsession, but he was also a massive potential problem for Littlefinger if he made it to the north. Even if Ned went straight to the Wall, and as an honourable man he probably would have, there is no doubt that he would tell his family that it was Littlefinger who betrayed him. The entire north and all those who respected Ned would be against him, and his longer-term plan to climb the ladder to power would be seriously compromised. Added to which, he still held a torch for Kat and was developing a crush on Sansa. Ned telling his family about what happened in King's Landing would ruin any chance he felt he had with either of them. And if you dig into the text a little bit, there are plenty more hints that Littlefinger did it. He alone in the inner circle of the Red Keep has strong links to Braavos, for example. His family came from there, and although he personally uses a mockingbird, the Baelish sigil remains the Titan of Braavos. And rather suspiciously, he seems to know how much it would cost to hire the Faceless Men for various hits. When the small council were debating whether to hire them to kill Daenerys, he mentions how much it would cost to hire them to kill a merchant, say, and later tells Ned with open admiration how effective the Faceless Men are. And let's be honest, it would be just like Littlefinger to talk to Ned about how good the Faceless Men were while he was at that very time going about hiring them to kill him, just like he told Ned not to trust him and then betrayed him with a smile on his face. So not only could Littlefinger have hired the Faceless Men to kill Ned en route to the Wall, it makes complete sense that he would have. He had to have Ned killed. He couldn't allow Ned to make it to the north, and if he didn't hire the Faceless Men, he would surely have hired someone else, someone less good. In short, Littlefinger had the means, motive, and opportunity to hire the Faceless Men to kill Ned Stark. Now, of course, in the event, none of this mattered. Joffrey decided to go against advice and order Ned to be executed there and then on the steps of the Great Sept, to the apparent shock of both Varys and Cersei. Varys later confides to Tyrion that this might have been Littlefinger's doing, goading Joffrey into it behind the scenes, which is possible, but we simply don't know. At the least it tells us that Varys, the most informed man in King's Landing, understood that Littlefinger couldn't possibly allow Ned to live. Which leaves us with the rather odd question about what the returns policy of the Faceless Men might be. What happens if they are contracted to kill someone who is killed first by someone else, as happened here? Given their insistence of a price being paid for their service, there's probably a good chance that the contract actually becomes void and the money returned, but I don't think this actually matters. Littlefinger needed Ned killed, and it shouldn't be a surprise that he had more than one plan for doing so. I doubt he cared about the money. And of course, there's the most obvious bit in this whole equation that often gets overlooked. Jaqen didn't kill any members of the Night's Watch caravan. He hung around for a bit in Harrenhal, I'll talk about why he did that in a couple of videos' time, changed his identity, and just moved on. We don't hear of any assassinations of important people near him during that time, other than what happened with Arya. He had carefully manoeuvred himself into a position below suspicion in the Night's Watch caravan, and then just moved on. Occam's razor suggests that he no longer needed to kill the person he had been contracted to kill, because they were already dead. He changed his face on leaving Harrenhal because it was time for him to move on to a different job. That job was over. Littlefinger had paid him to kill Ned en route to the Wall, but Ned died before he ever joined the caravan. But what do you think? Do you have another idea why Jaqen was in the Black Cells? Let me know in the comments below. If you'd like to see more videos in this series, there's a link to the playlist on the left of your screen now, or to check out my new channel, IDG Live, with lots of live and new content coming soon, please click on the link in the centre of your screen now. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you again soon.